Welcome back to the channel, folks. Today we're carving Vikings. Vikings! Specifically, these guys. If you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you might have seen these already. You might have even seen them over on Reddit. And I carved this guy here. And I showed them people, and people were like, wow, Johnny, you got to do a video on that. So we just did. We just carved this guy here. And I'm going to show you how to carve this guy today. Thing is, it takes a bit. So this might be like an hour and a half, almost 2-hour video to carve, because that's what it took me to carve this guy. So that's okay though. It's a project. It's gonna be something to learn on. It's gonna be something fun. We can talk a lot during it, and yeah, I think you guys are gonna like it. So we'll jump right into that in a moment. Before I get into that, I want to talk about the source of inspiration for this, because there's this carver, František Bagashevich, right? And I hope I pronounced the name right. I probably didn't. He's from Belarus. And it's his carving style that really got me into this type of carving in the first place, but also kind of inspired me to become a carver in the first place, because I saw it and I'm like, man, I want to make cool stuff like that. And so part of my carving journey has been getting to the point where I can make cool stuff like his stuff and like this, because I think that these guys are just so neat. I mean, if you look at the detail in that hammer haft right there, look at that. And then like, same for this guy here. The detail there and that finish, right? That black walnut Danish oil and wax. It's just gorgeous and I love it. So we're gonna carve that today. So let's go ahead and flip the camera around, we'll jump into it. We're gonna be carving this Viking warrior. Call him Thor if you want, with Mjolnir. You can do this as an axe, but we're gonna do it as a hammer. And he's a short little figure, not very big. He's in the style of František Bagashevich, as I've already said. And to do that, we're going to use a 1 3/4 rough out knife, which is my Helvey right there. I'm also going to use a number 9 palm tool. This is a file, but you can use any palm tool that's just got a good incline there, just a good scoop, you know. And we're going to use that for providing detail work. We're going to carve the whole thing with a knife. We're going to do details in for like the hair, the texturing here, the texturing on the robes, the chainmail, the gloves there. All of that stuff is just the palm tool. That's all when the carving is done. The details there in the beard, the braids on that section of the beard, we're gonna do that with the knife. The eyes, all that with the knife. Everything else with the knife is just the texturing we're gonna do with that gouge. So onto the block of wood we're gonna use. This is a 5-inch long, 2-inch by 2-inch piece of basswood. And what we're going to do to start with, I've already drawn on this block for us, is we're going to draw a crosshair, a cross section from each point to each point, and pause it here if you need to take a look at what we're doing. And then we're going to draw a circle here. I'm doing that to keep center line of this carving when I start removing those edges. I'm going to remove those edges pretty quickly, but I want to know where the center of the carving is so I can help keep myself centered as I go. Drawing that circle here, that's about where the center of the head is, and I'm just doing a rough estimate. It's about midway from the center where that outer portion of the line is. And I just real rough drawing a circle there to help guide me as to where all of this is. Now for the side of the face, we're coming about 1/3 of the way along this edge of the block from this corner here in, and that's about where our head is, about 1/3 of the way there, 1/3 of the way here, same thing. And we bring that line down, and we're coming down about 1 inch. See if we can get that to stay up there when we do this, huh? We're coming down about 1.25 inches before we pivot and come down at an angle to about the 2-inch mark over here for our right shoulder. It's the same thing, about 2 inches down the left shoulder and coming down about 1.25 inches, and that last 3/4 inch, we connect those two lines at a shear angle. Now for the bottom of the elbow there, it's about 1.5 inches up on each side, and we're coming in about, what is it, about 1/2 inch in right there. So going up and then coming in about 1 inch, about 1/2 inch, and that's where the bottom line is of our arms. And the top of the arms right now are about 2.5 inches up. Now, that is a lot of room for the arms there. We got a lot of detail going in there. That's just where we're going to block them out. If you look at this guy or if you look at the overlay that I've got up here on the left. Now the overlay is going to be the carving that we finished today. So when we'll be working on, that's the overlay. But you can see there's a lot of detail here in the hands. We're going to block most of this out as one section and then do the detail later. So we're not worried about doing the detail on that immediately, okay? And then for that hammer, I didn't pencil that in, we're going to come out about 1/2 to 3/4 inch, depending on how big you want that hammer. And then come in like so. Let's see how big I drew that. For those playing the home game, that's about 3/4 inch. It's about 3/4 inch for this. And then 1/4 inch right there and right here for that hammer haft, that shaft that we're going to be doing. Okay? And that's what we got all set up. Now we're going to go ahead and start by taking off all those sharp lines on the corners that none of us like to deal with. Now I'm not going to take it off that bottom corner right here just yet, because we're going to use that sharp point on that hammer. Let's do a little stop cut right there along the top, and then moving down to it. Same thing here, just taking off those rough corners all the way around real quick. And why do I do that? I saw Doug Linker do this in a video once, and he mentioned that he did it because he didn't like those rough angles poking into his hand when he was doing a carving. And I hadn't noticed it until then. And when he said that, I'm like, that is kind of annoying. And now I do that before I started carving on all my carvings, just to get rid of those. Now, excuse me, we're going to start taking off the wood here on the left side of the head, and we're just going to come in at about the shoulders and then pivot up, just swooping in as we go, taking out that wood. And you can come up a little bit higher than where the shoulder starts and bring it down to that shoulder after the fact. So if I come in here up above the shoulder, I can just start taking out this wood over to the line of the head, and I can worry about bringing it down to the shoulder here as I get more and more into the carving, like so. And that's pretty close right there. That's really close. Let's just go ahead and slight more like that, and that's looking pretty good. So we're gonna do the same thing now here on the other side, just in on the side and out at the top. That's what we're doing. In and out. Take a look at where we're at. You bring that down more here on the left side, or on the right side of his head. Our left, his right. And that's looking pretty good. Right, like so. Okay, today we're using that new Sony ZV-E10, if I didn't mention it, so things are going to be in higher definition probably for you. Maybe looking a little clearer, hopefully, but they might be shaking a little bit as I figure out the camera angles. So I'm doing a stop cut right here in the top of the hand, and then I'm cutting down to it. Now I'm using that paring cut because it's a good cut to do, I think, for that maneuver right there. Just to put a little definition to where the top of the hands are going to be, help mark that in. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom of the hands right here. And then I cut up to it. We don't want to get too much into the haft of that hammer, but getting it at an even heel down here, down to the top of the hammer, that's a pretty good spot to be for our start. Now we're going to go ahead and set in the elbows. So we're going to come in here. If you get it angled down a little bit, just slightly angled down, that works out just well, because those elbows aren't going to come in completely straight. So we're going to do that and then carve right up to it. And you notice even I have a hard time holding a big hunk of wood like this in my hand or figure out the right way to hold it. Take your time, figure out the right way to hold on to that while you're carving. And just coming right up to that spot, stop cut underneath that. Now I got that done, I'm gonna do that paring cut. My right thumb's gonna go up underneath the back of that, and I'm just gonna cut that bottom section off to smooth it out, like so. And that did pretty good. Get that last little bit smooth all the way up to here. Now, I want to point out too that this is where people get themselves cut, is doing something like that and pushing in too hard. And then the knife will slide in between that wood grain. And when it does, it gets loose and it just goes right through, and then they cut anything on the other side. So if I had my finger up here and I was doing that, I would wind up cutting that finger if that comes loose and goes through that wood grain. So keep that in mind. It's always when you're cutting up into wood grain stop cuts, that's when accidents happen. Keep those fingers out of the way. So I'm going to do another stop cut over here, angle down just slightly again, just a little bit, because that elbow is not going to be completely straight. See what I'm saying about angle down just like that? And then just going to cut up right to it, like so. Again, stop cuts, and just in the middle, right up to that stop cut. That's about deep enough. We do that paring cut again, that bottom section, smoothing that off straight, like so. And are those shoulders? Those elbows aren't exactly even. I need to bring that side up. So you can always bring one side up to match. You can never bring the other side back down. It's the way it kind of works with wood, you know. So one more time. That's pretty close. Much closer. That's looking better. Okay. Now we got some good progress made there, and I got wood chips all over in my lap. Let's go ahead and take off this back section here, and I'm just going to take off about yay much throughout there. I'm just putting that pencil there to help you guys out playing the home game, but I'm just going to take off a lot of wood here in the back that we're not going to need, so we can start smoothing out. And yes, I don't go the whole length of the carving right off the bat. I can go a little bit at a time for a section here and a section there. That's about where we want to be right there for that. So let's go ahead and bring that down to the bottom half. I'm going to flip the carving around and see if this is going to work, to see if we're carving against the grain the wrong way and see if it splinters a lot. If it doesn't splinter, we're going to keep doing it like this. And it's not splintering, so we're doing all right. I'm noticing the camera shaking a lot more than it did with the other mount, because this mount has it hanging out a lot further and it's still attached to the desk. I'm not sure I like how much it's shaking. So you guys are going to tell me in the comments whether or not it's shaking too much. Is it noticeable? Is it not noticeable? Maybe it's only noticeable to me because my face is right next to it. Or maybe I'm going to look at the video later and go, wow, that's terrible. I'm not entirely certain right now, but I'm hoping for the best. It's a new camera. I'm learning how to use it in regards to doing this stuff, so bear with me. It's another learning experience. I'm going to keep learning and keep getting better at this thing, and that's just where we'll be. Okay, and I got all of that section cleaned up right there. What I want to do is all these sections here now where there is clean wood from the bandsaw or from the sawmill, I want to go ahead and carve those off so that every surface has been touched by the knife. So I'm going to round off that little bit of hard edge right there in the back. I'm just going to round that off. And we take off this other section there that we've gotten it with a knife. Like that. Okay? And then we're going to start rolling over the back of this head right here. So we can start coming around like so, up to that front point, just right up to there. The same thing on this side here. Start curving that up. Like so. There we are. I may wind up moving the camera on us to see if I can figure out a better position for doing this. I got very accustomed to doing it with the phone, but I really wanted to upgrade to get us a better quality video, and we'll see if I can do that right. Alrighty, go ahead and pause this real quick. Okay, we've adjusted the camera a little bit, and we're going to try that to see if that's better for us. I think that will be better for us. And I think I can adjust some of the shake that's happening when I move my arm from the table out in the editing process. And we'll see if that is an option for us. Okay, so I'm just going to clean up a little bit here. That's not quite perfect. All right, so on the back side, we're going to continue down and removing all those bandsaw marks and putting knife marks in their place. Now you can do this all with a knife. I do have a number 3 gouge I like to use periodically to do it sometimes, and that's this KCT here. And I like to do it with this because you can actually do it with a knife. It's just easier to me, and I like the process when I do it with this tool better. But you can absolutely do it with a knife. Always a thing. You don't have to do it with the tool that I'm using. I think I do this a lot. I show people, hey, you can do this with a knife, but I'm not going to. I'm going to use this one because I prefer this. And you know what? I'm sorry if you're like, well, I wish you would use the knife. No one ever says that. Maybe that's just me putting words in people's mouth. Because when you're carving, you get used to certain tools and you get accustomed to them and enjoy them, and you prefer doing things with those. You can do most of the work that we do here with just a knife, but it's nice to have those comfort tools that you just prefer using. So there we go. All right, so back to the head up here. We were rounding this off, bringing that in. We're going to keep doing that. Just keep bringing that in all the way around. I'm going to do a little paring action here along the back side. This is where you find out how sharp your knife is. You hear me say that probably in every video, and it doesn't make it any less true. In fact, I say it often, because how sharp your knife is comes out pretty easily, pretty well when you're cutting end grain. You start to notice it more than any other spot. Just getting off all of this excess here in the back of the head. The back of the head is going to come in a little bit here. It's not going to be as far out as it appears there. That's a lot better. As we start to increase that angle, we're carving into the end grain less and in a side grain more, and it becomes a little bit easier to manage. So bring that in a little bit more. And there we go. Looking pretty good. We did pretty good at bringing that in. You can see what we're trying to accomplish there. It's a little bit of incline over there, because we're going to come out here the shoulders where that cloak is going to come down. So I'm liking that. And we can kind of set in a little bit right here, the edge of that beard, like where that hairline is going to start, by coming straight in there. I'll show you again on this side here. I'm going to come straight in along that shoulder right there, like that, and I carve right over to it. It's sort of a stop cut like that, right? And you can do this from the side view right here like that, and then come right into it to set that in a little bit. Yeah, just like that. We're gonna do the same thing right here to set the corner of that beard right there. And right here. And that's out too far. We're gonna take a lot off the front of this face here. We're gonna take a whole lot off. That's too much there. We're gonna take off a good bit to bring that face in. You don't want that face sitting too far forward. I want to set it back some. And so, like with Doug Linker or other carvers, when they're doing a video, they know exactly what they're doing, exactly how they're doing things. They are so knowledgeable. It is easy to see. With me, I haven't done this particular carving a lot before I do the video on it. Like I did this one just a few days ago, and now I'm doing a video on him, but I've carved him once before. Not twice, not 3 times, not a dozen times. And so it's still a learning process when I'm carving him. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I'm doing or how I'm doing it while I do it. So I'm carving off the stuff in the face here to bring that face in. And now as I brought it in, I rounded it over some. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to create some planes here, sunken in on either side, a little bit, to bring the center of the face out more. And that's gonna give us a better plane for that nose. Like so. You can see what I'm trying to do right there. Looking down from the top. I'll show you that view again. You see what I'm doing right there? Bringing that down like so. And you can see where our center line is right there. That's helping us out. That's the center of our nose. So if I bring this side in a bit more, that gets us closer to that peak. And right about that, right? So that's what that center line that we put in really helps us out. And I wasn't even planning on using it. I wasn't knowing I was going to use it, but I did wind up using it. Now, that's another one of those cuts where so you can get injured because you're cutting into in grain right here between it, you know? So it's hard to figure out the right way to do that. This is the angle. This right here is the right way to do it. If I do it this way, it's easy, it's controlled, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. So rotate a carving around until you find a good spot for you. The way that you can do it to set something in that's not going to be a problem, not going to lose control of it. And yeah, that's the way to do it. The same thing here, coming across this section here, like that. And then again. And just kind of set that beard in a little bit. Setting things in like this really helps me keep track of where things are going to go, where I'm putting stuff at. That helps out right there. Give me an idea of what I'm doing, what I'm looking for. Okay, let's do the same thing here on the bottom of the hands. We got a lot of wood to remove here and here around the hammer, around the arms. So what we're going to do is let's put in a line. I'm going to come straight in at this carving, and I'm going to start right at the bottom of where our line is for our hands, and I'm going to dig that knife in nice and deep like that, coming straight in as best I can. And then I do the same thing down a little bit farther and try to come in all the way down to the top of that hammer. Now to get it to where I'm as close to the top of the hammer as I can, I turn around and I come in again from this side here, using this left thumb to push that in right there. So I've got a nice deep cut right there. The same thing on this side, coming straight in, like on the plane of the face. And I'm going to come in right at the bottom of that hammer, or the top of that hammer, straight in like so, working that knife, using that left thumb to be the motor to put my depth in there. Come over here. Obviously I got off on that. I wasn't paying attention because I'm too much talking. That's okay though, because we went out further than we needed to. We can correct it by coming in like so, just like that. And now when we put in a stop cut right here underneath the bottom of the arm, working that knife left to right to get that in deep. Do the same thing on the top of that hammer right there, working it left to right, get it in nice and deep. Now we can just carve up to the bottom of the arm a few times, and that stuff should release. If it doesn't release, go back in there, redo your stop cuts. That piece popped out, and that one did too. Just keep on doing your relief cuts as you need to. If the line doesn't look too clean, clean it up. Just get back in there, go over it again with your knife. Well, that's pretty good depth right there. That came out pretty good. So we do the same thing over here. We do our stop cut right here underneath where our arms are going to be. Work it left to right to get nice and deep. Same thing right here, up underneath the edge of that hammer. Work it left to right to get nice and deep. And then we're going to carve right over to it like that. Take that chunk out. Carve down to the bottom one. And up the top or the bottom. I've got it all reversed on us right now still. Like so. And it's at the same depth, Johnny. That is pretty close to the same depth. But it's not quite. You can see that left side is a little bit shallower. So we're gonna take on a little bit more. We're gonna clean up that line right there. And that's looking pretty good. And our hammer isn't round yet. That hammer shaft is nice and square. We're gonna swirl that, do all kind of fancy stuff with it. We're just blocking stuff in right now. That's fine, being blocked in. Now, for this hammer, you can see one side looking a little bit longer than the other side right now. You need to be careful. Let's make sure we get this at the exact same on each side. Let me double check my line. So that's not 3/4, and that is 3/4. So this line over here needs to be a bit further out. Right about so. Now, on the same plane we did for the haft of the hammer right here, we're going to do the same thing right here and come straight in on that outer edge, and I'm just going to press right in, rocking it back and forth and get some depth on it. You can see how deep I got right there looking at the bottom of that. I'm going to do the same thing here on the other side, coming straight in on that plane. So straight in like this right here. I'm going to put that knife right there, work it back and forth to get that depth in. You can see how deep I got that knife blade in there. Not crazy deep, but deep enough. Work that back out. And now we got those in there. We need to come down from the bottom of the arms. So we're going to start up here, and we're going to rock our blade back and forth along the bottom edge of that arms. And then we're going to carve up to it. Be careful here. We don't have a good stop cut set in yet. So that knife could easily slip past us and get someone hurt. So I'm going to cut out half of it and come to the other side and do this half. I'm going to do the same thing and cut up on one side, about half of it. And then do the same thing on the other side. So now that I've gotten a little bit set in, it's going to be easier to catch that on our stop cuts. So we're in less danger there. Now we can do that pairing action and bring that down. This is where it can get tricky because we need to do it right up to that line and take that wood out without taking the hammer out. So keep in mind where the tip of your knife is while you do this. And we also need to take out this big hump that's in the middle here. So it's coming up there, and that's like a high point right there. I don't even see that real well. This light is a little bit too bright, isn't it? It's hard for me to judge because the video screen isn't showing me a good clarity on what the brightness level is. So hopefully I can adjust that better in post. So we're getting that good amount out there. Flatten that out. I'm going to stop cut right there. Let's release that. We'll cut up to that arm again. Stop cut that out. So a lot of this carving is just this, right? It's just blocking things in till you get to that point that you can start doing details. We got that arm blocked in. We're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to block in the bottom part of that arm, rocking that back and forth, and then do one half and the other half. One half and the other half. And ship that out. And then did we get that cut in? We did. Now since we're doing this from this side and I'm right hand dominant, we're not going to do a pairing cut here. I'm just going to come in, and now be careful here. You don't want to push too hard. You push too hard, that's when people lose control of their knife, and they wind up doing something silly where they push things out and then they got a hand up there and they get cut. So I was putting a lot of pressure there, and I realized, okay, I need to stop and slow down and think about my actions before I get hurt. If you're putting a lot of pressure into a knife, slow down. Too much pressure is usually when you need to stop and think about what you're doing, how you're doing it, and readjust and figure out whether or not you need to get less meat with your slice or cut from a different angle or what. There is a solution, and you're not finding it if you're putting way too much pressure in there. Too much pressure is how people get cut. I say that a lot. Why am I saying that all the time? Because I'm not wearing carving gloves. I find that I don't have as much dexterity in my hands wearing carving gloves. And I've gotten cut while wearing carving gloves. I find that the best protection, by far, is outside of carving gloves. You should wear carving gloves, especially if you're new. The best protection, though, by far, is prevention. And what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Being mindful of what you're doing with your knife and how you're using it and where accidents can happen, that is, I mean, just absolutely primo. It's a fine thing that will keep you from getting cut when other people are. All right, that hammer is crooked as a dog's hind leg. Look at that. That is terrible. So we're going to go ahead and cut across the top along the line that I drew that we obviously didn't carve it on. And that's going to straighten that thing up. It's still a little bit long on the left side over here, so we're going to go ahead and cut that in just a bit. Make that a little bit better. So if we need to adjust it more as we go, we can adjust it more as we go. So we need to take out a lot of wood right there and right there as well before we start setting in our cloak, the back of the headline, hairline, and all that. So let's go ahead and do that right now. And we're going to do that by putting some stop cuts in. I'm going to put the tip of the knife in right where the inside of that elbow is. I'm talking about like this portion of the elbow right there. So we'll put the tip of the knife in right there and just work that nice and deep like so. And I come in from this other angle and do the same thing. So a 90-degree angle from that and doing it again. Just rocking that knife in deep like so, about yay deep. And then we're going to carve that little chunk out like that. Nice and easy. This last section here, we're going to bring that to meat by rocking this knife back and forth across there and then cutting right down to it. And that'll allow us to get more of that stuff out right here from where that beard is right there. But the same thing on this side. We're going to come in right to that crook of that elbow right there and work that knife in nice and deep like so. Bring the knife blade out. Come down here, same thing, 90-degree angle to it, and we're pushing that knife blade in, rocking it back and forth. We didn't have to rock it in up here because we went between the grain. Nice and easy to sink it in. Here we're cutting across the grain, so we got to work a little bit harder on this way here. And we're going to cut down to it. I'm going to use my left hand because I'm right hand dominant. So on this side here, it's hard to cut in. I can't do it from this direction, you follow? So I'm going to cut in, and I'm going to use my left thumb here as the fulcrum to pull down. Now by doing that, my right hand is not putting a lot of pressure in here. It's my left thumb doing the work. That's why I'm not in danger of stabbing myself, because I'm not putting a whole lot of movement pressure on this. It's just that left thumb pulling, and so it's a lot safer than people might first suspect when they see it, because they don't realize it's that left thumb doing all the work there. So, food for thought. Now, I'm doing the same thing we did on the other side. I'm going to rock back and forth right here to put that line in along the top of the hands, and then left thumb doing the action here. Because that left thumb's doing the work, I take off less wood each slice because it's not as strong as my right hand is, but it's more controlled, and because it's more controlled, I'm less likely to injure myself because I'm just doing this with the knife blade like that. Okay, so we've got that more defined than it was. Where else do I need to work? I think we're going to start working the hairline around the back of the head here, because that is not too hard to do. So right here at the top of the shoulder, we're just going to come kind of straight in, angled up a little bit, work our way in a little bit, and then cut right down to it. A little bit further back, and we're just going to do that around. And now this is, again, how people can get injured. When I'm cutting down like this, I'm cutting between grain, and that's where people get cut. They cut between that grain, and the knife slips, and then it cuts right in their hand. So keep that in mind. That's what we're trying to avoid. I'm going to come in like so and rock that blade in. And you'll see me rotate carvings around, trying to find the right angle of approach, the right angle of attack, to do a slice or a cut without injuring myself. Take your time. Rotate the carving in your hand a few times. If someone says that, if someone's watching and they're like, why is he over there twirling that carving? You tell them to go away. You don't need to be watching you carve. And why do you got an audience watching you carve anyway? Well, look at this. I need to make these match. Those aren't matched up at all, are they? Like, John, you were talking too much, not paying attention to what you're doing. Okay, which one do I like best? I think it needed to come down like that. I like that hair coming down longer in the back. So we're going to do that, and we're going to take more wood out right here. Take that down like so. Not a great angle. We're getting there. That. Don't like that portion of the shoulder. That left shoulder is higher than the right shoulder, I think. Maybe a little bit. Down there like that. Take a lot of this meat off right there. We don't need that. And then we'll continue that line around like so. And like so. There we are. Making good progress so far. I'm liking it. I'm going to start rounding the top off here now. A little bit. Start taking that down. I'm going to use a paring cut now to take all this off the top here. We got the point where we don't need those lines anymore. They don't have to be there. I just want to leave them there as long as I can, but we're at that point where we definitely don't need them anymore. We got the head lined up, we got it centered up, we got the hairline centered up, the front of the nose centered up. We don't necessarily need it. pretty nice. A little bit more take off on this side. Yeah, I'm liking that so far. Okay. Now let's spare chips out of the way here. Okay, so that left side of the arm is a little bit high, so we'll correct that as we go along. What we're going to look at doing now is we need to start setting in some of that cloak as it comes around. So we're going to bring that probably right here and bring it around the back of the carving, like so. Pencil it a little bit harder where you can see it a little bit easier. Just like that, and on down. Same thing on this side, we're going to come in right about there. And this is a cloak. It's not going to sit the same on each side, so it doesn't have to be the same on each side. But it can be as close as you want it to be. We can make it come all the way over here, maybe it's hanging off of one side more than the other, so it comes over to there maybe. But we're going to bring it down just like this on this side, like that. And so we're going to do a stop cut along here and then take out wood on this side because the cloak is sitting on top. So we don't take wood out on the cloak side, we take it out on the side that's going to be lower. So what I'm going to do is, how do I want to do this? Let's do it this way. I'm going to cut a line in right here using the tip of that blade. I'm going to kind of draw up to the beard like so. And then I'm going to cut up to that beard from beneath, like so. And that wood should be able to chip out, but if it doesn't, you might just go and do a stop cut along there to help it loose, help it free. And then do the same thing right here, like so. Stop cut it. Stop cut it. So, however you take that wood out, just do your thing. And you don't have to do a line like I did there. I'm going to do this differently over here. We're going to do a stop cut like this, where I work it in like that. And then we can just come in here with a paring cut with that thumb right there. I can come down to it like that if I wanted to. There are multiple ways of doing every one of these cuts. It's whatever's comfortable to you, whatever you want to do, whatever you feel like. That's the easiest way for you to make that cut. Make it cut that way. If you're watching a carving tutorial, it's not about how I'm doing the cut necessarily. It should be about like what form we're looking for and you figuring out what the right way to get to that form is from the driver's seat that you're in. That's one of the things I had to learn that whenever I was following carving tutorials. I'm just going to draw this down. So as you notice, the carving is on the crafting mat, and I'm using this knife right down here. If I lose control of the knife, it's going into the crafting mat. So something to think about is when you're drawing with the knife to carve lines like that, keep that other hand, the non-dominant hand, out of the way as best you can. Now I'm going to carve up to that line. I'm do my best not to do that right there where I'm messing the wood up. Thankfully I can still correct it. Let me start to form that around there pretty good. We'll do the same thing over here. We're going to carve down. See, we didn't get very deep here, so that's the thing about drawing a line like that. Now that got deep. So we can try to carve down to it a little bit better. so. Like that. Fix that. There we go. And I like that. I'm going to find under this elbow here a bit more. I feel like we were going in too much, we came down, so defining that elbow a bit more is just going to benefit us. And I think we can define it right up to that cloak. So I think that'll look good. I think it looks better that way. Define that elbow all the way up under the cloak like that a little bit. Okay, so we're going to bring this side of the cloak down. We've already sunk that in pretty good. And doing this direction is a little bit easier on me. Again, keeping that finger out of the way. And when you go slicing out of the end of the wood, out of the end grain, you have a tendency of losing control of the knife blade as you do that. So, keep that in mind. Alrighty. I will say too, take this moment to say this while we're recording the video. If you haven't already, head over to Instagram and give me a follow over there. Folks that were on Instagram got to see this a few days beforehand and were like, hey Johnny, we really like that carving. Why don't you do a video on that one? I was like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I can do a video on that one. So if you're following along on Instagram, you might be able to see something I'm doing and say, hey, I really like that. Can you show me how you did that one? And you might give me an idea for a tutorial people want to see versus something you didn't want to see. So do that. Plus, I like connecting with more wood carvers. I really enjoy that. And the wood carving community on Instagram is really fantastic. It's great everywhere, but like Instagram is really vibrant and it's made for sharing photos. So it's just a really great spot for wood carvers, I think. Yeah. So I'm just going to keep cleaning up some lines here for a second. I'm going along here, making this carving look a little bit better. Because we've got a lot of the stuff blocked off now. Alrighty. The rest of the details are going to be pretty easy for the bottom half of all this, but the harder parts are going to come in here with the face. So we're going to take our pencil and we're going to draw our hairline right up like so, and come down to here, down to there, right? And our nose is probably going to be right there, coming up to here. Maybe our nose will come down a little further, down to there, like that. And we'll bring that eye structure in. Sometimes I find it hard to draw right side up and get even. And so flipping it upside down can help me to get an even line, or one that I think is, what's the right word? Not parallel, but level across, not level. Symmetrical. Symmetrical is the word I'm looking for. So symmetrical across. And the bottom of that nose is probably going to go right here. And then from there, we'll do a mustache down here and all that. So let's go ahead and put in our nose, the base of it right here. So we're going to rock that in. I got that blade going left to right across there. And we're just going to carve right up to it. Like so. Again, like so. And that gives us some good definition for the nose. Now you can see that nose is coming out pretty far still. So we're going to take that back a ways, like so. That's pretty good. And then we're going to draw the hairline from up here in the center. I'm going to carve that right across there. I'm going to get that detail knife out. So we're going to carve that from the center, and I'm going to carve it around. And I'm going to try to keep the knife in straight at this angle here, and then just bring the knife around as I come down like so. So it's still staying in this same plane as I do that. It's just going from up here and curving around, same plane as I come down. So right at the center, and bringing it down and around. And you don't have to follow exactly on the line. If you can little bit off, you can little bit off. That's just, it's gonna be a hairline. It doesn't have to be perfect like that. And carving this section here is gonna be hard. I might come from the bottom up on this side, and that might be the easier way to do that and not injure myself. And this side, we're gonna have it come in a bit closer to the skin. We don't need a lot of depth here either as we carve this out. There doesn't need to be a lot of depth. This is hair, it's not a hood. Right here too, be careful. Because this is again, when we're getting close to that end grain and you can pop out real easy. So be very mindful of your knife. Be mindful of your carving and how you're controlling the blade, how much pressure you're putting on it. Like so. I'm being careful not to put too much pressure on as I come up here, which is why it's not popping out of the way, and I'm having to finger at it to get it to pop out the rest of the way. So there is our basic indentation of our hairline. On the bottom here, I'm just going to carve down like that, up in there to separate that beard out a little bit from the hairline here. Carve out and in, kind of start to separate those a little bit, you know. Now, for the nose, kind of same thing we did on the hammer. We're going to come in on a plane, straight with the face, and I come in with a deep section right there, the top of that eye, right there, and come out. We do the same thing up here on that plane that we did. So we're up a little bit to the right. The right side of the blade, the handle's up a little bit higher. And we're coming straight in all the way across there. And now we're just going to carve from the base of the nose straight up. And this is where you got to be careful. Don't put too much pressure. If you want to go all the way through, you'll ruin your face if you do that. And then we'll snap that out. Same thing over here. We're going to maintain that angle where that bottom, now because we're upside down, this thing is down a little bit down past the straight flat plane, and digging that knife tip in deep at that corner, rotating the carving, going straight in along the edge of the nose and putting a lot of depth in right there, that corner of that eye. And now we're going to carve up to it with that paring cut, right like so, and ship that out. And that gives us the basic face, just a real basic setup. So now what we're going to do for the cheeks is we're going to do these nice angles. And of course, like the overlay is right here. You can look at the overlay and see what we're going for the entire time. So we're going to come off of the nose like so, and then a right angle straight over to the side of the face. Same thing over here. We're coming right off the nose. If I can draw a straight line, right off the nose, straight angle the other side of the face. That's what we're doing with those. For the side of the nose here, we need to make him look like he's got a nose, but not just enough. We want to know the character. One looks like he's getting beat up in a boxing match or two, you know, because he's a tough guy. So we're going to do a little V cut right here in the middle of this nose, probably about 2/3 of the way down from the top. We're going to do this. So I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle in and a 45-degree angle up. So you can see that little V notch right there. We're going to do the same thing. Remember, about 2/3 of the way down or 1/3 of the way up from the bottom. So a 45-degree angle and a 45-degree angle. And we got those two lines. Now, from that cut, we're going to carve up and then stop cut. And that's going to give us a bit of jank to that nose. It's going to give him a bit more personality. And now we can kind of take those corners off here. So I'm going to carve from that there right up to to the brow line and then pop that off. And that's going to give him a bit more character. I'm going to take the bottom corners off of that nose. And then I'm going to take those hard lines off in the top. Like so. Provide it with a little bit of roundness. And we have got a nose with far more character than we did a little bit ago. Now, for the cheekbones that we draw it in, I'm going to come in at about a 45-degree angle again from the top and then from the bottom to carve that line out. So, 45-degree angle from the top, 45-degree angle from the bottom. It's not a deep cut at all. We're going to do the same thing over here, but it's going to be a little bit longer cut. 45-degree angle, like so. 45-degree angle. And there is that cheekbone. We got a little bit too long on that beard, and we can just clean that up real easy. Like so. So same thing over here. 45-degree angle. And again. And we do it at the top. Right up to that nose. Like so. So we got some cheekbones defined for our fella here. We can really bring that point in a little bit more too if we spend a little more time to clean that up, define that point, and then clean up any excess fluff or any excess crap that's in the way from superfluous knife marks we don't need. So we're making good progress here on him today. What we need to do now is get our eye in. And that's going to be just a triangle, okay? We're coming in from that edge of the brow, about midway down the nose, and again from the very inside edge of the brow, about midway down the nose. Maybe it's not midway, maybe it's about a third of the way down the nose. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a line and carve over to it, like so. So that the eye is popping out just a bit, because that's going to be our eyelid. And then carve right up to it like that, just to define it a bit. You can do the same 45-degree V-cut we did on the cheekbones, just on the eye, if that works for you. If you can find a way to get your knife blade in there, then do that. What I'm going to do is a straight cut here, and then I'm going to carve up to it and stop cut. So there is the two triangles I needed. Now we're going to carve two triangles inside of those triangles. So one more triangle and one more triangle. Okay, so this one is a straight cut in and a straight cut in. Same thing on this side, straight cut in, pivot, and a straight cut in. When I say straight cut in, I mean it's just like straight in. All I did was draw those lines with a knife. And now I'm very carefully going to take out those corners of the inside of that triangle. And I may need to stop, cut along the top to do that. I need to redraw my lines if I didn't get them deep enough. But by taking out those three corners, I provide just enough definition that the black walnut Danish well can sink down in there. And you can see that that starts to look like a bit of an eye, right? It is very angular. It is not a caricature style eye. You've probably, if you've been around me long or following me long, you've seen those styles of eyes if you have been following other caricature carvers. But it's definitely that style that you see on these little Scandinavian figures like this that I like to carve. This flat, plain eye. Not very detailed, very angular, very flat, plain, very just absolutely neat. I love the look of it. So, and that's what we're doing for the eyes. Now for the mustache and the mouth, we're going to start at a point right here underneath it, and we're just going to carve over and down. So from the middle of the mustache, again, over and down like so. And I come straight in here, starting at the top middle, and bring that down and around. Again, starting in the middle, and bring that down and around. And then we're going to carve that out. And we're not looking to get a lot of depth here. Just a bit. Like so. Okay, now we need a bottom lip. So we're going to put a bottom lip right through there. And to do that, I'm just going to come in at a 45, just like I did for the cheeks. Carve up to it. Same thing over here, 45. Carve up to it. Or carve over to it if it didn't pop out all the way. Okay, and now we got that big, thick lip. That looks terrible, right? What we're going to do is we're going to carve up into it. And deep. And deep. And try to make a deep hole there for a mouth. Just have it partially open. And then cut the bottom of that lip off to round it a bit. And that gives him that kind of look. And so what I do is I come back in here to carve that lip in like so. And then I stop, cut along the top, stop, cut along the top, take a little chip out of there. Just a pyramid cut inside of that lip after I define the bottom edge of it, you know. And so now, let me take a drink. Now we're going to start the rest of it. We got a face defined in there, so we're doing pretty good. We're making good progress on that. We're going to need to define that head more, and obviously the hands we need to start on, as well as the underside of his uniform down here. So let's do that first. We're going to take his undercoat, or his overcoat I should say, at about yay high. So we're going to do a stop cut basically here, all along there. And then from there, underneath that, is a chainmail undercoat. It's going to come down to the top of the hammer and all the way around. So basically we're looking to do 2 stop cut lines there and there. And we can start on that right now just by rocking that in and carving up to it. So this will give you the top layer, middle layer, bottom layer, which means we pull wood out of this side to meet that side and pull wood out of this side to meet that side. That way it looks like it's actually layered, and the topmost line will be the topmost coat. Just rock that in and carve down to it. And the same thing here. And carve down to it. Right there. Carving up to it. And we started to define that pretty well. You see how we're doing that? That's the 3 layers of the coat right there. And the same thing over here. Start with the top layer. Roll that down to it, like that. We work our way over here, and we carve right up to it, right up to it. Take a little time to clean that line up as you go too. If you don't like the way it looked, carve it again. Take your time. Do things like that. Clean up the stuff you do, so by the time you get done with it, you're proud of what it came out as. Some people have dirty lines where it looks a little messed up. And they're tired of carving that section of the carving, so they want to move on. They don't want to fix it. They go, oh, that's good enough. Don't do that to yourself. You invested time in this carving already. Invest a little bit of extra time it takes to fix it, to clean up those lines. Be more critical of yourself. If you feel like you're not noticing them, stop. Take a breath. Walk away from your carving for a little bit. Go smoke a cigarette. Go get a cup of coffee. Go do what you do. Go say hi to your parents. Tell your mother you love her. Everyone should tell their mother they love them a little bit. And then come back to your carving, take a look at it, and see what it is that you're missing. See what it is that you haven't seen. What mistake you might have made. Yeah, that's looking pretty good for us, I think. You'll see me, I'm bouncing around, fixing things as I go. Realize I need to define that a little bit deeper. Same for that one, a little bit deeper. But that's looking good. We're starting to do better at that. So on the bottom of the hands here, I'm going to stop cut there. I'm going to take out the saw marks on the hammer haft, like so. On this side here, we have less saw marks and more this hard line. Let's define that down a bit. See me doing something stupid with the knife, probably because I'm looking at the camera and not the carving. I'm like, am I gonna line it up right? Am I doing that right? It is funky using a new camera. It's definitely different. Just rounding off this top edge here. I don't want to round it in on the back. Just that front edge, like a big U kind of, you know? So we got that done. To put details in the hammer haft, we're going to do swirl around it. So like this right here kind of number. And a little bit further down, we do the same thing all the way around. And then a little bit further down, we come in with that. And up here, we can kind of do the same thing. So that's going to give that swirl pattern. You can put it on there however you want to. And all we're going to do is a little V-cut all the way around that right there and all the way around this. So if I start with this one, I can start up here in the middle. I just do a little V-cut like this and like that, okay? And then make it a little bit deeper. That's all that this is. Just controlled V-cuts all the way around. And I'm going to follow that line all the way before I do another one, just in case I need to adjust the other ones. Okay, so that one's done. Let's work on this one. Just little V-cuts. Little V-cuts, following those lines we draw. Little V-cut. Little V-cut. And you can see it's starting to really take shape. And all we've done, we haven't done anything hard, we haven't done anything complicated, just little V-cuts. Little bitty V-cuts. Same thing up here. Little V-cuts. Little V-cuts. And when you want that cut right there, we're going to get it all the way up to that edge. Up underneath that hammer. Look at that. It looks like a swirl pattern now, doesn't it? I mean, that looks just fantastic. We can round that corner there a bit more. Little V-cuts. Okay. So yeah, we have got that really well defined. That looks just absolutely fantastic. Clean that line up right there. Yeah. That looks like a swirl pattern. I'm proud of that. That looks fantastic. Okay, so we're going to do these hands real fast, set those in a little bit. So take a look at your overlay, and you'll see what we're going for, okay? we're going to, and I'm going to look at this guy here because I don't have the overlay where I can see it. And it's always best for me to like look at my hands when I'm carving hands, or look at the hands I've already carved. In this case, I'm going to look at the hands I've already carved, because this thing is going to come up here, and those mittens are going to come over like so, and then that thumb just stick out a bit like that. The other arm's going to come down up underneath there like that, and probably end right there around the hammer. And that glove is going to come all the way back to there. That glove's going to come back to here. So we're removing this section right there completely, and removing that section right there as well. So you can see we blocked off a lot of room on those hands. We don't need all of that. So right here, I'm going to come in straight right there. And I might use my detail knife for this. I'm going to come in straight right here. That's the edge of those gloves, which should be going around the haft of that hammer. And so we don't need to do that spiral pattern up here, because that needs to be a flat section for this big mitted palm, you know? So I got that straight in right there, pretty deep, all the way to the undercoat here, of the overcoat right there. I'm going to bring that back out. And now we're doing the same thing here. We're going to bring that line all the way down, choose a longer blade for this section here. And I'm just going to rock that in at this angle. We'll see if we can get that in one chunk. Probably not one chunk, probably a couple little chunks. But it's already trying to pop out. It was one pretty good sized chunk. But stop cuts, and that sees right through. So we got all that section out. That's how it is. Going to be coming down through there. We're going to take this a little bit more off right there, like so. That's looking better. Now we're going to do the same thing up here. Flip this around. We're going to bring the inside of the elbow down a little bit farther. Now we got a little notch right here for that glove. You're going to see that more clearly in a minute. I'm going to cut all the way down though to the top of the arm right here, and not do that notch yet, so we get that depth first. And then I'm going to do stop cutting along the top right here. Now we can cut over to it, and then I'm going to do a stop cutting of this back half here. Then cut down to it. And then flip it around again. And we're just carving that section out from whatever angle you need to be at till you get that stuff out. So we got those hands much more defined. And what I was talking about with that other angle here is we want that glove to be more defined. That thumb is sitting up and over that hammer, so you can see it better on this guy right here. So as we carve it out, we're going to make sure we carve that little notch out right there, but that's on top of the other glove. So we're going to do that as we go. So the back half of this glove, we can do a stop cut right here, and then carve up to it, because that glove is on the outer portion. And same thing along the top here. We're going to do that stop cut down in there, and then carve into it like that. Same thing on the bottom, like that. Carve into it, that little section. Makes it look like that glove kind of comes out around it. So the arm goes up into the glove. Same thing over here. We'll stop cut right up in there. Carving down to it. We're not getting a lot of depth here either. Just a little bit. Stop cut, then carving up to it. Stop cut, carve right up to it. And again, it looks like that arm goes right into that glove as it goes past there. And maybe we got a little bit too much arm there. We can clean that up like so. That's looking a lot better. I think his shoulders are a bit too high. Now it is a cloak, so they can be high, but I think that I want to carve them up like this a bit more. Clean up that hairline. I think I like that better. Do the same thing over here. And you need to be free to adjust things as you do them. Take a look at it and say, is that enough? No. I'm going to clean up those saw marks that are right there as well. If you clean them up before this point, it's easier to clean up. We didn't. I neglected to do that. That's on me. But I'll be texturing all that stuff. Nonetheless, I'm just taking off those saw marks as best I can. Gonna take off our drawing there too on our hands, isn't it? Oof. It's hard to get in on that one. The blade's not quite long enough. There we go, that's a good angle. Alrighty, now let's redraw that hand, because that hand is going to come from there up to here, palm down to the fingers, and then how's that thumb do? Yeah, it comes up like that. So basically we're going to do a stop cut right here and carve up to it. Now we're also going to do a stop cut right here and right there, and carve up to it on the inside there. So you can see we started to define that just a bit. Take that down a little bit and take that in a little bit. Round that about like there. Round that bottom edge too a bit. Just clean these things up as I go. I think that looks pretty good for the bottom of that glove right there. And then, yeah. Round that edge off. Deepen that. Here we're going to do that notch right there. So I carve the top two stop cuts, and I'm just going to carve up and into it. Again, define two sides of that triangle and up and into it. Came up a little bit there, I pushed back down. If I need to, I'll take super glue to it. If I cut that loose a bit too much. Define a little bit deeper through there. Ugh. Don't like the way that did it. There we go. There we are. I've gotten that superfluous cut out of there too, which I wanted to do. Yeah, he's looking a lot better. Looking a lot better. And I think that we're going to make that beard a bit shaped a little bit differently maybe. Well, no, we can do it right what we're talking about. We can just have it come like that right there. Come across that. What we can do too is we're going to start using that gouge. If you want to, you can take that gouge right across the front here and just start carving that in, which will make it a little bit easier to set that beard there. So we need to take a little bit of wood out there anyway. You can do that with the gouge, or you can just do that with the knife that you've got and then carve down to it Doesn't matter how you do it. Round off the front of that mitt and the top of that mitt. Like that. And for the beard, we're going to carve down to it. This is where that gouge may actually come in handy. Just carve right across there. Help us deepen that, like so. Now, let's define this beard better. So I'm going to come in at a 45-degree angle along that plane there, like that. Just like that. And I'm going to carve up to it. Set that in right along the top of that hand. And just take out more wood along the outside edge here of that beard. Going up over to it. Over to it. Over to it. I am dirtying up some surrounding areas here because now it looks kind of dirty around that mitt. But I can still fix that by coming in here and here and cut it down to it. That's what I was talking about too with, like, I've done the carving once, and until you do it a few times, you don't get real good at something. So I'm having to learn how to do this carving, even though I've done it once already, while I do it with you. Which is actually, I think, a good experience to see, because you can see the thought process behind it. You see me make mistakes too, and then you see me correct them. And how do I correct it? What do I do to correct it? Maybe you have a better idea for how to correct it. That's definitely a possibility, because hindsight is 2020. I might have thought of a better idea too, looking at it, watching the video play again. But seeing it happen in real time will help you realize that, you know what? No one has this whole thing figured out, and everyone is still learning. When you hear people like Dave Stetson, Wayne Larimore talk about taking classes, Wayne Larimore took a class not too long ago with Chris Hammack, because Chris Hammack is better at certain aspects of carving than Wayne is. And that is true, I think, for most carvers, in that we all have different strengths and capabilities, and learning from each other is absolutely, positively something we should all be trying to do, and also something that I love about the carving community as a whole. So I'm taking off on this corner here. I'm just rounding that off. It's a cloak. It should be rounder as it comes up there, right? It's not just the shoulders. It's this large, maybe animal skin cloak sitting up on it. So it should be curved in a bit more. And I think that looks fantastic. Okay, so we've got a lot of our details in for those arms. We're actually going to bring those all the way up in here, because it's like a tabard sitting over chainmail. So the arms are going to be chainmail, and this tabard is going to go in past that edge, like so. And define that chin a bit more underneath there and there. I'm liking the way our beard's defined now, I think. I think it could be a little cleaner over here. That brings that in a little bit. Now our hairline, I don't like. I want it to have more definition. I want it to be a little bit smaller as well. Doesn't need to be as crazy squared off as it looks. And we'll bring that in, around. Carve that down to separate that a bit more, like so. And same thing over here, like that. Sorry, I had to pause the recording. My wife wanted to steal M&Ms out of my desk drawer. Right, honey? Now she's looking at me like I betrayed her. Okay, anyway, we're defining that beard a little bit more. And rounding some of these edges here on that cloak. Right there. Right there. Looking pretty good. This isn't a hood, so that hard line across the top there, I want to fix that. So I'm going to kind of 45 that to fix that up. Clean up that line around there as well. Just continuing that around. That's looking a little bit better. So now we're going to take that gouge and we're going to start defining this as we go, right? We're going to draw some hairlines to start providing a little bit of definition. And they're not going to be long, and I'm going to randomize things a bit. So I'm just randomizing. I'm giving facets for the wax and the Danish oil to reflect off of and to play off of. And just bring things into the center. Remember, hair usually parts down the middle or maybe off to one side a little bit. So that's what you're kind of trying to do here. Just bring things to that part. And you don't have to use number 9 for this. You can use whatever tool you want to. And we're just, same thing, defining those lines. I will throw this out there right now too, so at this point, if you've liked this video at all, it's been any kind of benefit to you, like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is a longer tutorial than I normally do, which means it's more work, it's going to take more editing. If you like this kind of thing, please take a minute, like the video. It doesn't take too long to do. It really encourages me to make more. So if you're watching it, please do so. There we go. So you defined that hair quite a bit now. I still need to find that bottom section, but the top's pretty good. So coming down this direction is a bit more difficult because you could want it going against the grain. So right here you can see it pivots direction. So if I go this down slope here, I can do that pretty easy from this direction. But I might need to go in the opposite direction for the upslope. So I'm going to provide this detail all the way down to the shoulders, all the way around. And then that downslope right there to kind of connect them the rest of the way, like so. And I'll take my knife to free those things up if I need to. All the way around. So we got our hairline mostly defined. We're looking pretty good compared to our old guy. I'm liking the way things are turning out here. We didn't do our braid yet, I just realized. So let's do that right now before we worry about the details elsewhere. This braid's not going to be anything complicated. We're going to draw a straight line down like so on either side. We're going to stop, cut that, and cut into it. We'll do that first. So straight in, not very deep, just slightly all the way around. And then we're going to carve over to it just a bit. And I can do this sort of what I can come in like so, cut that a little bit out. However you want to do it. Just cut a little sliver out and cut in down from right like that. That works too. And then we're going to do it from up here. We're going to come over, and about midway you stop and you come from the other direction. Midway, stop, come from this direction. Stop midway, stop midway. See the pattern right there? Yeah. Tee that up, tee that up, tee that up. And just like the spiral, all you're doing here is that little V cut. Same thing. A V cut like so. And then all the way down to that line, a V cut. But then we got to change direction to get the bottom half of that little V cut here. Like that. Then we change direction again. Then we change direction again. And you could use a V tool to do this if you prefer. If that's what floats your boat, makes you happy. However you want to do it. And you can see that braid really comes in there. We didn't do that little section right there. You need to go back over it. The areas like, oh, that one needs to be more defined. That one needs to be more defined. Just define them as best you can. And then you got that little braid going on there. And you can take your knife and take off those pencil marks if you've got any, so they're not showing up later. Kind of take off any hard edges that you see. And then we've got a nice little braid there on his chinny chin chin. Now, for adding that detail, remember, mustache comes from the nose and flows down, comes from the cheeks and flows down. So we're going to take this and lightly, just very lightly. See, the thing about a U gouge, take a look at this thing here, okay? It is that U shape, right? We can make full use of this. If we're doing a carving and we're going real deep, we can get real deep to the bottom of that U. But if we're not going real deep, we're just very shallow, we can just use the bottom half of it and do a much shallower cut, right? So all we're going to do here is we're going to do very shallow cuts just to provide a little bit of texture. Less than we do on the head, on the hair on the top of the head. Just lightly texturing. Very shallow. Flip it around and go down grain here. Always make sure you're paying attention to your wood grain and not carving against the grain so you don't get those tears. Your carvings will look a lot better if you do it right. Unless you know what you're doing, don't carve against the grain if you can help it. But if you know it's going to work out, and you might, I'm good enough. I know sometimes, well, I can carve against the direction here and here and here. If you're at that point, perfect. If you're not, try not to do it. So there's some little texture to the beard. And I don't like that little fuzzy hanging off the nose there. Or on the cheek, I mean. And the ones on the nose, though, too. So, yeah, we got some texture to the beard. We got some texture to the hair. Looking good. My little thumb guard is sliding off on me. Now, for the gloves and the arms. These arms need to have a 45-degree thing going on right there. So I brought that in at an angle. I'm going to do the same thing here for this chest section. Bring those in a little bit more. Same thing over here. 45-degree that arm in, like so. In the crook of that elbow, we have got that section coming down where that chainmail is going to end right there, and that first undercoat is going to be under here. So we're going to bring that line down to there, like so. I'm going to do a little stop cut right here, and I'm going to carve right up to it. Same thing around that edge. Stop cut right up to it. And then we're going to round that bottom edge there. Same thing on that undercoat. So we've rounded that arm there. Right there, we're going to put a little bit of a V notch. Like that. We'll do that straight cut right there. And then carve right up to it. Again, carve right up to it. Following that straight cut all the way around. Being really careful at cutting into end grain. It is dangerous there as it is anywhere else. And just try to deepen that slightly. And then around the edge of that robe. That's looking pretty good. I don't like how hard the edge of that robe is right there. Same thing over here. You have to fix it. Like that, I think it's better. That's definitely better. I like it. Okay. So we got pretty far with this guy so far. We're going to be looking at defining that chainmail, I think, now. And the gloves here. What I'm going to do for the gloves is the back half of the gloves, those long gloves, Leatherman gloves that come up to here, you know. We're going to provide the indentation that goes right there. And to do that, we're just going to carve straight up here with that gouge. And in on the top half. In on the bottom half. Like so. Provide that indentation. Same thing up here. In right there. Come down from the top. In right there. That provides those indentations in the glove there. If those lines are too hard for you, take a knife, smooth them out. Like leather kind of gloves, you know what I'm saying? They don't need to be hard edged. It's not metal. Leather glove going right up to a wooden shaft for that hammer. I think that's looking pretty good right there. Now for this section right here, we're going to be in and out, a little bit of depth there to provide texture for chainmail. Right up on top of them, overlapping kind of like that, but deep enough to put a little texture in there. And compact enough that they're overlapping. So that just does that like so. You see those extra lines there where this is digging in? Don't leave those. Get back over there. Clean that up like so. If you don't like that, round that edge a little bit. Take the time, do it right. Let's do the same thing over here. And we want to have that, like I've got it going up at that angle there for this section. Let's do the same thing here. So we'll come in at the same kind of angle because that chainmail is going to do the same thing in the body on this side. Same pattern because it'll have been made the same way. So if you do it at a different angle, it'll look off. So same angle of attack, same directional angle of attack, I should say. Like so. And now we got the chainmail each of those sides. And I'm going to clean up that real fast. Okay, now we're going to put a chainmail texture down here as well. And we're going to go left to right with it. So I'm just going to start right there. Do a section, skip a section, and try to stagger it a bit. If you need to, you just do how you want to. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not, let me tell you exactly what to do on this. You're randomizing it as best you can. The more you randomize it, the better it looks. Overlap it. If you don't like a section, redo it. Just go a little bit deeper. It won't look worse because of that. It'll look better. If you need to, reset that line underneath it. Reset that line underneath it. With the line on top of it, reset the line on top of it. If you need to redo the whole thing, just carve that thin little layer off. Make it go a little bit deeper by carving it back in, and then you'll be set. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. It's your carving. I'll say this, I think I got the camera angle down now for the Sony ZV-E10. Let me know what minute you're watching at, and then tell me whether or not you like the camera angle, if you would. Like, I like the camera angle at this minute mark or at this minute mark. Do you like the first one better or this one? Help me out with that. Give me a little input, because that will help me out. If you're carving right now, you're like, I can't do that right now, Johnny. I'm too busy. I'm in depth. I'm carving halfway done. I get it. I get it. Don't do it now. Do it later if you think about it. Okay. That looks pretty darn good, I think. We still want to do some texturing in the back. I want to round off the bottom of this top tabard. So this tabard basically has no sleeves. It goes up around the chest, right through here. Has no sleeves. This is the undershirt, like so, at the same level. And then this is his battle skirt or whatever that goes down to the ground. And you know, for this, if you want to, you add a little texture to it too. Put a little vertical lines like this in there, you know. And that'll add a little texture to it. Different other things. People go, wow, there's so much detail to that carving. And they don't know that you just, oh, I'll just do this and I'll just do that. And you just threw something in there that you weren't planning on doing. I'm putting it to the same channels and just doing up to the underside of that in those same channels. So like, when I say same channel, I mean like that same curvature right there, and then just go up, 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 and up. And then we'll cut those free if we need to. You on this side. Okay, I like that. that defines that really well. I like that a lot. Okay, and so you can see on this guy here, he's got some more texture going on in the gloves I didn't do, right? We can provide some marks in the gloves like that right there. A little bit of texture. Make it look like actual leather, you know. And then the arms here, we can put a little stuff going on, coming down and to the left, like so. Folds of the cloth. Now here in the back, we're going to do these folds coming kind of up and towards the shoulders. It's going to provide some folds for us. And we're going to go kind of deep as we go around that corner there. And right here too. Round off those really hard edges. Same thing here. Kind of deep as we go around that edge. Bringing it right up to there from the bottom. Like that. And just randomizing those lines coming up to those sides. And that's going to catch that Danish oil. It's going to catch that wax. It's going to really look kind of nice. So I'm kind of going up into the grain there, so I'm going to carve down with the grain on this section here. A couple spots in the back, just get real deep with it and come right out the bottom like that. Provide a little bit extra detail too. We're about to be done with this guy. We're in the home stretch, folks. Right to that corner to the same thing. So you can see we've randomized this enough that it's starting to have some good texture to it. I don't like how hunchback that back section is there, you know. I'm just going to take that out. And you have to be willing to do that extra carving, like, oh my gosh, that's wrong. Let me fix that. I think that's going to fix it up significantly. Get right up underneath that hair. Don't be scared of that. See, I think that looks better right there. It looks a lot better. So we're just gonna put in new lines. And then new hairlines. Be careful not to get too into that robe. But that looks significantly better. A little too hard right there. That's okay. And I think that we have him done. Let's take a look here for a minute. Did we miss anything? Johnny, did you miss anything? Honestly, I think he looks pretty good. I'll tell you what we missed. I know exactly what we missed. We didn't provide those cuts into the hair. So let's do that right now. We're just going to do a nice deep V cut like this right here. And then pop it out the bottom. That's going to provide some cuts in the hair. Same thing here. I'm using the detail blade. Like so. That's just going to provide some folds, you know, from the hair. If you don't like it, don't do it. You're looking at it thinking, what's he doing? He's ruining that. Then don't add that part. There's nothing that says you have to do this exactly like me. I like this look. If you don't do it. And I'm just randomizing this as well. It's not going to be the same everywhere. It's going to be different a little bit. And it's going to add some more depth, more texture to the hair. Just kind of doing 45-degree pyramid chunks, triangular shaped chunks out of there all the way around. And you can see how it kind of looks a bit better now. You know, we maybe add another one right here. And there we go. And you can do the same thing to the beard. So we want to keep it in line with where the hair is going. So if the hair is coming down right here, I can come in like so. And then take a little section out. Take that hard line out. Same thing over here. Come down there. Like that. Kind of pushes that beard out a bit more. Like that right there, you know, makes it look more realistic. But folks, I think that's where we're at. So I'm gonna take him now, and I'm gonna wash him up. I'm gonna take him to the sink, and I'm gonna wash him for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm gonna scrub him with a toothbrush. I'm just gonna get all the finger grease off my hands and off the carving. That is also gonna get this water in there to heal up the wood a bit, and the wood will swell, and it's gonna heal up all those little cuts. Like you'll see little cuts like right here, and you can see those little things, right? There's little legs I can fix, but in the sections where you can see that extra line right there, like there, it's open right there, right? That will heal up when I water it down. The water will get in there, it'll swell, and then it won't open back up when the water goes down. So the carving is going to look a whole lot better after I wash him. So I'm going to wash him for 2 or 3 minutes, and I'm going to show you the difference in what he looks like between this to this. And this is the Instagram secret, right? People don't realize, but when I take pictures of carvings, it's when they're wet like this. I dry them off just enough you can't tell that they're wet, and that line that was there is gone now. The whole carving looks cleaner. Looks like the cuts are cleaner. It looks like it was carved in hard butter almost. He looks a lot better, all in all. And that is just with 2 to 3 minutes under lukewarm water, and just with a toothbrush, just scrubbing the whole carving, rubbing it with my hands, and letting that wood swell up a little bit. And when it cools down, when the water cools down, or when the water evaporates, you're not going to see those lines that were in there. It's still going to look far better than it did. And I just realized we never took the saw marks off of the haft of that hammer. This is not the time to do this, is when it's wet. People talking about, oh, carve when it's wet. I don't agree. I don't like carving things when they're wet. I don't think it works out well. I think it tears more than it cuts. I'm going to try and do it anyway because I want this to dry so that I can get in there and Danish oil him up. Now you can do a design on the hammer if you want to. I'm not going to do a design on this one, but if you do want to, go for it. The design I did on the other one is just a simple little thing. It's just that Mjolnir mark, which is a V-cut and a triangle and a line on the side of it, right? So you can do that on there if you want to, or do some other design on there if you want to. Whatever you want to do with your carving. I'm going to leave him like that right there, I think. And yeah, I'm going to let him dry for a couple hours at least before I try to put Danish oil on him, because he's soaked with water. Water and oil don't mix. And that Danish oil is basically boiled linseed oil and some solvents to thin it out. But even with those solvents, it's still an oil, and that oil isn't going to penetrate as well. It's not going to soak in as well. It's not going to do its job as well. And I want it to soak in because I want it to color, because it's got stain in there as well, and get that color the way I want it to. So I'm going to make sure I link the Danish oil video I did so you guys can see how to do these guys up properly. And yeah, that's where we're at. So we got him finished up now, as you can see, with the black walnut Danish oil and the wax, and he really turned out great. I really like the way he turned out, at least. Thank everything's all finished up. So thank you so much for watching the video. Thank you for sticking around and seeing the whole thing through to the end. Don't forget to go to Instagram and give me a follow over there so that you can keep in contact and we can see all the things that I carve, and I can see things you carve, and we can interact there. Also follow me on Facebook or Reddit if you want to as well. Other than that, really appreciate your time. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and outside of that, I'll see you next time. Bye.